Kathy Bisbee, Executive Director at CMAP. This edition of Depth of Field is going to vary a little bit from our usual format. First of all, I'm very excited to be doing my first show in our brand new television studio and recording studio at Christopher High School in Gilroy, California. We're really excited to have this wonderful new partnership with the Gilroy Unified School District, and we look forward to you, our viewers and members, coming in and joining us in creating local content, local television, and local media that goes online as well as on our cable channels, which we've recently added viewers like you on both Charter and AT&T. Thanks so much for tuning in, and let me tell you a little bit about today's show. So, a few weeks ago, I returned from Spain and Portugal. I was very fortunate to have a wonderful opportunity to travel to Spain and Portugal. I'd never been before. And I went there because I had decided to do a spiritual pilgrimage on one of the oldest pilgrimages in the world, the Camino de Santiago. And as luck would have it, several Gilroyans also were on this voyage at the same time as me. But they were coming from the border of France and Spain, and I was coming from Portugal. So we'll hear from these Gilroyans. There were 4 of them who traveled about the same time as me, and they've got some very interesting stories and photographs to share with you on today's Depth of Field. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience on the Camino de Santiago. So there was a wonderful film called The Way with Martin Sheen playing the father and Emilio Estevez actually playing his son in the movie and in real life. And the Estevezes are actually from Spain originally. And so I read an article with them. It was just an amazing story about their process in going back to Spain and shooting this film. And I watched it about a year ago, and it was really intriguing to me. And I thought, this might be something that I want to do in the future. I'm an avid hiker, and I grew up in northwestern Maine, hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and then I've hiked quite a bit here in California as well. And as many of you know, I'm an outdoors person. I just love being outside, and I'm so blessed that we live in California where there are many opportunities to do that. So I spent 9.5 days hiking on the Camino de Santiago on the Portuguese way. And our friends that will be here with us later, they went on the French way from the Pyrenees down, and they did 322 miles on the Camino de Santiago. I did 150 miles, and it was just a wonderful experience. I didn't see any other Americans for 2 weeks, which was just interesting to be around Europeans who were also doing the Camino. There were 3,000 people each day, apparently, that arrive in the city of Santiago de Compostela, and those pilgrims have traveled from all of these different routes all around Europe, but the most common is the French way. So I'm going to show you some pictures about my trip, and when we get the other pilgrims on the show, I'll talk a little bit more about my experiences with them and share some of our stories, because I'm really excited to hear their stories, and I think you will be too. So I left on a Monday from the city of Porto, Oporto, in Portuguese it's called. And some of you I know we have a really big Portuguese community here in Gilroy. I know many of you have been to the Azores, but this is actually in central Portugal towards the north in Galicia, which is the area, the region. And I met this wonderful German man who saw my mandolin. I don't play well, but I did bring it to Europe to play it for people and learn some new songs. And this old man, Peter, didn't speak a word of English, but as soon as he saw my mandolin, he brought out his harp, and he and I played some American blues. He knew a lot of Bob Dylan. That was my first day on the Camino. This is the city of Oporto. It's beautiful looking out at all of the tile roofs in the city. And I started my voyage at the cathedral in Porto, where they give you a stamp on your passport that you have as a pilgrim. You have stamps from every single city that you go to, cafe, cathedrals, all of the hostels that you stay at. There's special pilgrims hostels that you stay at. You get a stamp in your passport. And I was very excited about this. Some of the beautiful streets of Porto. Down by the river in Porto, and that's looking back at the old city. beautifully built upon the hillside. You can see the fortification all along there. And you can see the influence of the Romans at the bottom of the screen. Many arches and Roman bridges everywhere that I was in Portugal and in Spain. In Portugal, you see just beautiful tiles on every church, in buildings. Even the train station in Porto had beautifully tiled ceilings and walls. Another old street near my hostel in Porto. Now, on the Camino de Santiago, there are signs. About every 4 or 5 minutes as you're walking, you will see a yellow arrow. Sometimes it says the word Santiago, but most of the time it's just a yellow arrow pointing you the right direction. And a lovely priest that I met from South Africa said to me, well, you know, the arrows are sort of a metaphor for life, that when you're looking for guidance and you're trying to find your way, sometimes you just have to wait a few minutes and then a sign appears. And I loved that as I was walking on the Camino. I really kept that with me and thinking that if I was lost or if I wasn't sure where to go, there was always a sign pointing me to Santiago. And these arrows are all around Europe on all of the different pilgrimage routes that people have been taking since the Middle Ages to Santiago. Now, I haven't mentioned yet, but the reason that Santiago is this point of pilgrimages, the end point, is because the body of St. James is supposedly laid to rest in the church in Santiago de Compostela. So what you have there is his body underneath the church in a tomb, and he was the apostle to Jesus. And there's a lot of interesting history around that with the Moors. You know, I think the Christians really were battling to keep the Moors out of Spain at that time, and some folks think that that might be, it was a political thing to rally the Spanish against the Moors, but there are many, many people who traveled there that really believe that this was St. James. So you can see the pathways took us all through beautiful, beautiful scenery. This is the first day in Portugal, and you see the yellow arrow, and it took us through churches. Every town, of course, the Camino goes past all the churches because in the Middle Ages, of course, the pilgrims were staying at the churches and with people in the town. Went through vineyards, gorgeous churches. This is a medieval church. Most of the time you're walking behind farmers' fields and then sometimes through cities. This is Barcelos, Portugal, and you see the rooster here, and it's actually a story about the rooster. Apparently in the Middle Ages, a man walked through the town and he was a pilgrim and he was on his way to Santiago, and a woman had affection for him and he did not return it, and so she was angry with him. She went to the town police or security folks and said, this man stole something, and he said, if I stole something, the rooster will come up out of your dinner and come alive, as he was about to be hanged. And sure enough, the rooster came alive. So this is the symbol for Barcelos, Portugal, and you see it everywhere. This is also Barcelos, where there's a beautiful medieval castle there on the river. Many, many old buildings in Barcelos. This is really exciting. I am interested in joining the Rotary here in Gilroy, and so I was very excited to see that they had a pilgrim's menu specifically for people who are walking the pilgrimage to Santiago that was sponsored by the Rotary Club in the vein of community service that the Rotary does all over the world. This was one of my favorite days after Barcelos. Beautiful, beautiful valley. And I love the Roman bridges. They were just so beautiful to know that wagons and people had walked over these for thousands of years. You get a lot of time to think when you're out on the Camino, and people have very religious and spiritual experiences. And it's also quite beautiful, so it's very peaceful. Usually for me, I walked several hours in the morning alone, early in the mornings, and then joined up with folks from all around Europe during the lunchtime break or during the meals in the evenings. This is the town of Ponte Lima in Portugal, one of my favorite towns, a town that I would go back and visit on the Camino. This is evening, of course, and then morning, the same church. The longest day that we did, I ended up walking with Jose from Spain, an older gentleman, and Marianella from Italy. And the two of them and I decided we are going to go long one day. And actually, Marianella and I decided to go 26 miles up this sea level to 1,200 feet. Quite a climb to do 26 miles, landing us right at the Spanish and Portuguese border. There's Marianella and I, looking quite sunburned, I'm afraid. But this was the climb that we did all the way to the top of those mountains and back down in one day. Most of the mileage, though, on the Camino is a day's walk, and for most of the hostels, they're spread anywhere from 12 to 15 miles apart. So it's very easy to walk that distance. And of course, you're not carrying your food or your provisions at all. You're able to eat at bars and cafes along the way. You're also able to take a lightweight sleeping bag. So you don't really have to carry a lot. I unfortunately had quite a bit in my backpack. This, of course, is showing you the independence of the area, the region that I was in, Galicia, Gallegos, Spain, the northern part of Spain, the northwestern part of Spain. And this is the Spanish border. You can look across to that mountain. That's Spain, and I'm in Portugal at the time taking the photographs. And you see signs everywhere that tell you you're on the right path. And sometimes you see beautiful sculptures like this along the way as well. This reminded me of Tamales Bay in Northern California, actually. As we were walking past, we could see the bay from the ocean, from the Atlantic Ocean. Very gorgeous. Also in Spain, this is Pontevedra and Redondela in that area. Beautiful towns. This is Pontevedra. And you can see there's a symbol, actually, that I think you can see in the left of the picture that is a shell symbol. And it goes all the way across this bridge. This is at 7:30 in the morning, just a beautiful time to take photographs. And this shell represents all of the different pilgrimages from all around Europe. All of the lines on the shell are the pilgrimages, and the center point or the end point of those lines is Santiago. And so you'll see this symbol throughout your journey on the Camino de Santiago. More beautiful, beautiful churches in Spain. I just love the cobblestone. It does give you shin splints, so you have to be mindful of that, but just beautiful, beautiful passageways. This is actually in Padrón, where the famous peppers are from. Delicious peppers. This is again in Spain with me walking on the path. You do get quite a few blisters while you're hiking this kind of distance, but next time I don't think I'll be carrying quite the load that I carried on this trip. And then this is my friends and I. This is my Italian friend Marianella and John from Ireland. We walked the last 3 days together, 2.5 days together, and we made it to Santiago. We made it about 10:30 in the morning in the rain, and it was our only day of rain on the entire trip. And we were very happy, as you can see, to have finally arrived at noon on the, this is actually the passport that I was speaking of. At noon at the cathedral in Santiago. The cathedral is amazing, and of course the tomb of St. James is below, down below, and you can walk down, you wait in line and you walk down to go see the tomb. But the service, the Mass that they do at noon, every single day they do a Pilgrim's Mass, and that Pilgrim's Mass has potentially up to 3,000 people who've just arrived in Santiago that day attending the Mass. And they have the incense container that takes about 8 priests, to get this container up and swing it 100 to 200 feet over your head in the church. It's just an unbelievable, if you see the movie The Way, they actually show that whole thing happening, that ritual. It's a really beautiful ritual. So we attended the Pilgrim's Mass, and then we went and got, in Latin, as you can see, there's my name, Anne Catherine Bisbee is my full name. So Annanum Catharinum Bisbee is what they wrote in Latin for me. And you get one if you've done over 100 kilometers on the Camino. So I had done 240 kilometers on the Camino, and so I received this saying that I had done so in devotion to St. James or for a spiritual or religious purpose. For our next segment, we'll be talking with Gilroy local residents who just recently returned from the Camino de Santiago. So I'm really looking forward to hearing their stories and sharing them with you on this edition of Depth of Field. Stay tuned.
The 2013 Gilroy Garlic Festival on July 26th, 27th, and 28th, brought to you by CMAP. At the end of July, watch CMAP's video coverage of the Gilroy Garlic Festival with the cook-off stage and more. Interviews with celebrity chefs, cooking demonstrations, and music artists. Join CMAP on July 26th, 27th, and 28th. Go to cmap.tv for more information.
Hi, I'm Kathy Bisbee, Executive Director at CMAP, and you're watching Depth of Field. Today I have 4 Gilroyans, the 4 amigos, who recently returned from a fabulous trip to Spain, where they walked the Camino de Santiago from the town of Burgos, Spain to Santiago de Compostela. We'll see some of their amazing photographs from their journey and hear some of their stories about their experiences while on the Camino. I'm going to start with asking them a little bit about their trip. So we have Manuel, Ed, Emilio, and Larry, and they're going to introduce themselves to you and talk a little bit about why they decided to go on this very long hike through Spain and what they got out of the trip. Manuel.
Well, I'm Manuel Diaz. I've been in Gilroy 13 years. I was actually born in Spain, so going back home is always a good thing. The reason I did it was primarily because these guys twisted my arm and said, let's do it, it would be fun, and it was really a lot of fun. You know, I spent most of my life relatively sedentary, you know, being in an office environment and not really doing much of any exercise, so I figured it would be a good challenge, and it definitely was. I came back with a fair amount of blisters in my feet, but also I came back with a sense of accomplishment and camaraderie with these guys. And even though we have 4 of us here today, my brother Jose, who lives in Spain, also joined us. So it was a total of 5 of us doing the trip there, and it was really a lot of fun.
We're going to ask you for some stories about that later, so we'll get back to you. Ed, how about you?
I'm Ed Mitchell from Gilroy. I've been here since 2007. Once I retired, I moved here from San Jose, and I love it here. And went on the Camino because my wife took me to see the movie in Carmel, The Way, and when we were walking out of the show, I turned to her and I said, I'm going to do that walk. And I don't do things like that, I don't very often anyway. And she just said I should probably go in and have another glass of wine, but we didn't. And so I really wanted to do it, but at the time I had no idea why. I really didn't, other than just something in the movie, you know, struck me. So the next day we were walking, the 4 of us walked together almost every day. And so I was walking, I was telling them about the movie and said that I thought I'm going to do the walk. And they all said they would kind of like to do it too, and we all probably looked at each other and said none of us are going to do it, but we did it. And it was a wonderful thing. It was, for me, it was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done at our age, especially. It was quite a challenging walk, much more challenging than I thought, but we did it. And especially the first part of it, it was very bad weather. And what I got out of it was a tremendous sense of, I'd have to say spirituality, not necessarily religious type situation, but more spiritual. And when I came back, I said, you know, initially when we finished up, I said I'd never do this again. I enjoyed it very much. I really did. I loved the walk, every moment of it. But I said I wouldn't do it again. But I had no sooner hit my house. My daughter said she would like to do it at some point, so I said I'll do it again.
Will you do the same route or different routes?
Same
'Cause there are
route,
many
but,
routes.
but not as far.
Not as
only
far.
because she can't take that amount. We were gone almost a month,
Yeah.
just a couple days short of a month, and so she can't do that, and with her business and everything. So no, we'll probably do 2-3 weeks.
Great. Emilio.
I'm Emilio de Souza. I'm a retired businessman from San Jose. Moved to Gilroy about 10 years ago, and I'm now a part-time winemaker. Have been up until now. I've made wine for the past 5 years, and that's turned out all right. These friends, these 4 amigos, other amigos that helped me out on the wine, but these 3, every year they would help me out, and it turned out to be a good wine. Anyhow, back to the Camino, Ed already mentioned how it started, and I just went along with it, not really thinking what I was getting into. I'll go. They're going. I'm definitely going to go too. So what I got out of it was something that was very touchy. It touched me very, very deeply after the 3rd day. I knew there was something on that Camino that was part of me that I needed to do for the years that I'm going to be around. And as the days went by, I noticed that feeling was getting stronger and stronger until the day that I got to Santiago de Compostela in church, and then it really came down to not even being able to control myself, and just the tears just kept coming, and it was just amazing. I was not waiting for anything like that. I just wanted to do this because at the end, before the end of your life, you want to do something that is different, and this was one of them for me. I'm glad I did it. To enjoy the moment that I spent with all the guys that went, the people that we met, and from all over the world. The food from Spain is great, and the prices were reasonable, but Portugal was better.
Yeah. Amelia, where are you from originally?
I
think we have to disclosure here.
I was born in Portugal, and of course I'm going to say that. Anyhow, it was great, and I'm glad I did it.
Thank you. Larry.
My name is Larry Marquez. I've been in Gilroy for 40 years. And the Santiago, interesting. Initially, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go or not. I did see the movie. I enjoyed it. And the guys asked me if I wanted to go on a trip. And I said I wasn't quite sure. I'm not really religious, so it wasn't an incentive for me as a religious or a pilgrimage. But one morning I woke up and I said, well, you know, if you don't go now, chances are you never will. So I called the guys who had maybe 3 months more walk-in than I did, so I had to catch up. And so we did the best we could, and off we went. And we flew into Madrid, and from Madrid we took the train into Burgos. And then from Burgos, we started our trip to Santiago. And the first day, I'll never forget. It was, some say 21, say 23 or 25, but it was probably the worst day in my life, except for when I was in the military. But
why was it so difficult?
It was started off okay. It was a nice morning, and as we got into the trip, we got some wind, and from wind we got into some rain, and from rain we got into snow, and then a blizzard type, and then we started walking through some mud, and it was getting late. And I thought if we didn't get to a town in the next hour, it'll be dark, and we're going to be in some serious trouble. And Ed was in front of everybody, and I was trying to catch up with him. And when he stopped, I said to myself, I think he found a town. And I caught up with him, and we did. But that was probably the worst day.
And that was the first day?
That was the first day.
Wow.
After that, you know, it started getting better. About a week of little snow, a little rain, and then the sun broke out, and it was like spring weather, and it was good. The trip was great. I enjoyed it. There was a few times I got a little, spiritual. I was asking the Lord to help me, make the next step. I was hurting from blisters like everybody else, and so it was a great time. The guys are fantastic. We had a great time, and Portugal is beautiful. My family's from Spain, and I like the Spanish food myself, especially pulpo.
I think we all agree. Pulpo is octopus,
Right.
and it's a specialty of that region of Gallegos. And what a delicious dish it was. Usually with potatoes, boiled potatoes,
Right.
and a little bit of olive oil, maybe some onions and tomatoes as
A
well.
little bit of red wine.
A little bit of red wine. Yes, it was delicious. And in Portugal, of course, we had Vinho Verde,
Oh.
which was delicious, kind of a spring fresh wine that was very different than the red wine of Spain.
Yeah.
So, what time of the year did you do this?
It was in April.
April.
Mhm.
We left San Francisco April 2nd. We got to Madrid on the 3rd,
Mm-hmm.
and we flew back to San Francisco on the 29th. So basically the entire month.
Wow. So you were out on the trail for 20 days, and you hiked 322 miles. Is that correct?
Right. We took a day off, so actually 19 days, and we did 320 miles.
So was the day off because everybody's blisters were really
No,
bad,
we
or just
had,
you
we
had
had
a,
scheduled it. We
Okay.
said when we get to Leon, we're going to take a day off, and that's what we did.
was that about halfway?
It was
No.
it was 6 days into it.
Oh,
So
okay.
on the 7th day we rested, and then we had 13 days to go after that.
After that, wow. So what is the average age of everybody that went in the group, in your group?
The average?
The average age.
I think you said 60.
From the youngest,
No,
The one-
69.
69 is the
So,
average?
69,
including
yeah,
your brother,
yeah,
yeah.
Okay, wow.
yeah.
So did you meet a lot of people around your age on the Camino? No.
Mostly younger.
Yeah.
Really, because my experience is that I met people who were your age the whole
Really?
time, and actually I was, when you said that about the third day, it made me feel a little emotional actually, because my third day was also like that, where I met a group of people, not at normally. You guys stayed, I think, similarly to me at hostels, the auberges,
Yeah.
and they're specifically for the pilgrims. And sometimes then you can also stay at a nicer place,
Did
a
that too.
pensione or a parador,
Yeah.
and they're a little more high end. You get a little bit more comfort. You don't have people snoring all night, right? But talk a little bit about the experience of staying in the hostels and being around other people. What was that like for you guys?
Different, that's for sure. It's very different. I'm pretty much a loner, and so for me to be in the same room with 50 to 90 people, sharing a bathroom, most of the time people aren't dressed. They wander around.
Those Europeans.
Well, the first day,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. The first day, I thought I was pretty modest. I was pretty modest, but by the second time, I didn't care. I mean, you're just so tired when you finish, you just want to get your shower and go to bed.
Yeah.
But so it was an adjustment for me, to say the least. But mainly because of just the pure number of people and what you're sharing. But with that said, the real upside of that are the people you meet, and because you are in pretty close quarters, and so you strike up conversations with people about some pretty funny stuff. And like Larry snoring is a center of conversation for most of us, and we had to protect him a lot. And so,
One time I snored. Come on.
One time.
but anyway, it was a big difference. And we at times we would stay at another, have our own rooms in another
Right.
place, and but we also stayed at the albergues.
Most
What-
of the times.
Was it difficult
No.
to find beds at the albergues?
Not for us,
No.
it was.
No, I
It was a
think
quieter
time
time
of
of the
year,
year.
that time of year it's not too busy.
Because I've heard that sometimes on the same, I was in Portugal, so from Portugal up to Santiago, and you guys were coming down from close to the border of
Yeah,
France.
border,
You
yeah.
didn't actually start in the Pyrenees,
No,
but
right.
but close to the border of France, and so that was the way that was depicted in the movie with Martin Sheen
Correct,
and
exact
Emilio
same trail.
Estevez.
Yeah.
And I had heard stories on the Camino Portugues that it was almost competitive sometimes on the Camino Frances during the summer, where people were, getting up as early as possible before
place.
daybreak, just to get a bed at the next hostel, because some of these, I mean, these hostels are very big though. I mean, 45, sometimes 50. I think one hostel I stayed at had 71 beds, and then had people sleeping on the floors as well.
Yep.
And a lot of these pilgrims hostels, they're very specific to pilgrims, right?
Oh, yeah, strictly.
And what did you notice about how they were managed? Did you notice the volunteers and kind of how the communities had set up those hostels?
We had some, I don't know if they were good experiences, but they were kind of cranky, a little strict.
Curfews.
There was
Curfews.
We had a
Yeah.
curfew.
Yeah, the curfew at 10 p.m. There was the albergue Nazi in Astorga,
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Astoria?
The window! You have to close the window! Because they put on the heat, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, we actually, you know, we didn't stay that much in albergues. For the most part, we stayed in hotels and
Okay.
private rooms. I shared the room with my brother. But the memories we have, the better memories, the ones we talk about the most, are the nights that we spent in the albergues.
Why do you think that was? What was it about staying at the albergues with the other pilgrims that was a nice experience for you?
Well, from the time you walked in until the time you left, you were meeting people. I mean, from the very moment you're checking in, and you're starting to be introduced around to everybody, all different countries they represent, most of which you don't speak each other's language, but I don't know, somehow you converse. And so that, from that point on, I certainly like that part of it a lot. And then meals. We had a lot of the communal meals, and which was a lot of fun.
Now, was that just everybody went to the grocery store and bought food
No.
back and then ate, or
No.
the albergues actually had their own food?
Cafeteria.
Yeah, food.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't have that experience.
We had a
in
great meal
Portugal.
in one of them.
Yeah, it was very good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Menu of the day.
There's more
Really?
opportunity for interaction,
Yeah.
you know, in the albergues.
Right.
You meet people from all over the world, just like you do when you're walking.
How many countries do you think you met people from?
Oh,
Oh,
What were some of the countries, just to share?
Singapore, the
Singapore,
Philippines,
wow.
Hungary, Belgium, France,
Germany.
A lot
Portugal,
of people from the United States.
Germany.
Oh, you met a lot of
US,
Americans, really?
A lot of
Californians.
I didn't meet one
Lots of
American.
them.
Oh yeah, we
Koreans,
Koreans.
a lot
Lot
of
of
Koreans.
Koreans.
Yeah.
Huh.
Perfect.
Chinese,
Mexico.
Most of them.
Japanese.
Mexico,
Most
From
of the
all over
ones
the
we met
place.
were from the United States.
a
that
lot of
we used to
Italians
walk
you
with.
mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, that
and
were in our
some
group.
Portuguese as well, I think.
Yeah.
I met a group of 40 people in Santiago, in the cathedral,
Uh-huh.
that came from Portugal, from Braga.
Oh,
as a
okay.
group.
As a
Yeah, as a
group.
group.
Wow, that's a
Mm.
big size group. So
Yeah.
there's really people from all over the world on the Camino. What were some of the things that people told you for why they were walking the Camino? That was probably the first question everybody asked each other, right? Where are you from, and why did you decide to do this? What was some of the best things that you heard, or just most interesting reasons?
The most interesting to me were the ones that wouldn't tell you.
Oh,
I thought those were very
the
interesting.
secret.
Yeah, it's not that they were, you could, when you first talked to them, there was just something different about why they were
Huh.
there, you could tell. Very quiet for the most part,
Yeah,
but
the-
they just didn't want to talk about it, and they went off and did their thing.
So maybe more religious
But most of them,
reasons. or-
spiritual.
This was this Russian girl that we tried to talk to her a few times, and she wouldn't say a word. She would smile, say hi, but she wouldn't really open up. And
Huh.
To anybody.
she was doing her own private journey.
Your private journey, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what surprised me with the number of people that were doing it alone.
Yeah.
And so you have to think that's the main reason.
That was true for me. I mean, it
Yeah.
was definitely wonderful to be able to have so much time by myself. But then you also have the safety of traveling with other people because there's always people on the Camino, as well. So it's easy to find people to spend time
Right,
with
right.
or to be alone,
Right.
which is
Yep.
really nice. So I think we want to move on to some of the photographs that they have of their experience on the Camino de Santiago. And so we'll start looking at some of those and we'll hear from them a little bit about what this experience was like.
This is the day we arrived in Madrid, April 3rd. Happened to be my birthday. That's why I remember it well. We are right now in La Puerta del Sol in Madrid, the center of Madrid. It also happens to be the center of Spain. And the stone we're right on the sidewalk, that actually shows kilometer zero. So all the radial roads in Spain are measured from that specific point. Here we are in Burgos.
That's a beautiful cathedral. It's very light colored. Was it really actually that light?
It is,
Wow.
it is that light, yeah.
And that's where the albergue is, too, for
Is right at the
municipal-
cathedral?
Not too
Is
far from
right
there.
at the
Yeah,
Wow.
just around the
So
corner.
the hostel where pilgrims stay is right
Yeah.
by that cathedral. Wow, that's amazing. A lot of, I noticed, I mean, everywhere throughout the Camino, of course, the Camino passes by churches because, I mean, this is something people have been doing since the Middle Ages. And so, of course, they would be maybe staying at the church back in the Middle Age in a different, you know, a thousand years ago. Or maybe staying with people around the church, or maybe the church was all there was in the village and a few homes. So,
Oh,
well, that looks
So
good.
after visiting the cathedral, we already had planned to eat in this famous restaurant in Burgos, and they specialize in baby lamb. So what you're seeing there is half a baby lamb that we managed to devour. And,
Wow.
with you know, adequate amount of wine, we had a great time.
I
We
see
did,
a
it was a
little
ball.
Spanish tortilla there as well,
This was
made
our
out of potatoes and eggs.
Oh yeah. This was our send-off dinner.
I look a little upset because I didn't think they gave us enough food.
Ooh, that looks good.
Ed?
Oh, it's a bottle of wine. This
And-
was. Go ahead. It was, you know the name of it. I don't know the
That's
name of
Cune.
it.
Actually, this wine, it's there is a sequence in the movie where they stop at a winery, and it happens to be the Cune. And this is the next day. This is the first day that we started to walk. The day that Larry remembers so well.
It was the beginning of the
And
day, though, because you look all very
yeah,
happy.
very early.
Yeah.
Actually, when we left the hotel, it was still dark.
What time did you normally leave to walk?
I think this day we left at 7, typically 7:30, and as the days progressed, we kept starting later and later, and then we figured that the later we start, the later we're going to finish, right? One day we finished at 8 p.m. and we said, no, we
That was
gotta
too much.
gotta.
How many
correct
miles
that.
did you do that day?
That was one of the
Or
longer
kilometers.
days. That was
This
like,
particular day was, I think, 21 miles.
Oh, yeah, on the first
this
day.
was the snow day.
Oh, my goodness.
So
That's a
that's-
long day for the first
Yeah,
day.
that's a long way.
So this is the same day, and as you can see,
Snowy.
this is snow. It wasn't photoshopped. This is real snow.
Yeah, the guy on the left is the guy we met from Russia.
Yes.
No,
Oh, it,
It looks so
thought you were serious.
green, and to
Yeah.
have that snow coming down. And I see
Yeah.
that there's other pilgrims behind you walking
yeah.
behind you
Yeah.
as well. Were there people around you all the time?
most of the time.
Most of the
yeah.
time? Mm-hmm.
you know, funny. The first couple of days, we didn't see all that many. We were glad to see some.
Sure.
But then after, it's funny. After the weather got a little bit better, we started seeing a lot more.
And probably the
Well,
closer you got to Santiago,
Yes.
we noticed that there were about 100 kilometers out from Santiago. We noticed that there were people who didn't carry packs, got
Right,
people to
right.
carry their own packs,
Right.
and lots were not wearing hiking shoes. So they hadn't really come as far. They were just there for the. If you go the 100 kilometers, the church will give you the
Certificate.
certificate.
Right.
So
Right.
it seemed to change the nature of the pilgrims.
Oh, it
a
did
little
because
bit.
that was Syria. Syria, is that it?
Syria,
The
yeah.
town of Syria is where that's where their last stop was, coming from the other direction.
Okay.
And I would say it tripled the amount of people on the path.
Wow.
After that, it
Yeah,
tripled. It got
that-
crowded. Actually got
Yeah.
crowded.
Talking about not meeting too many people. The first 2-3 days. The third day, that's when we met more people and some young ones, girls and boys, and they called us the creepy group.
The creepy group.
Creepy group because we were all
in
cold
black.
and rainy and all that. It was all dressed in
okay.
black with our what do you call those things?
Hoods.
Hoods,
Hoods.
yeah.
Hoods, yeah. And we didn't look very
We look creepy.
You looked a little creepy,
look
huh?
friendly.
Look like
No, they called
hoodies.
us the creepies and the mafiosos.
The mafiosos. Oh my goodness.
And the old guys.
And the
The old
guys.
guys.
Yeah.
Mainly the old guys.
Yeah, and my experience was that I actually was one of the younger ones. There were a few people younger than me, but most people I met were in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and some in their 80s. Yeah, which
We
is
only saw a
incredible.
couple
We
people
met a
older than
couple
us.
in their 80s
Yeah,
that
their 80s, but
zoomed
that's
right
about
by us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they passed us up like
fast.
with-
Oh my goodness, and fit.
Very
So
fit.
this is, who is this?
This is me.
Amelia. Yeah,
This
that's
is
right.
Ed.
This was me.
Yeah.
The first day out when we said we hit the rain, snow, sleet, and wind.
And mud, looks
And mud.
like.
And this is, you'll see a better picture of the mud a little bit later, but it was so muddy, and I had just fallen in the mud face first.
Oh my
and got up and
goodness.
so Manolo was nice enough to ask if he'd take the picture. So you can see the mud all over us. That's the mud.
Yes,
Oh
That's what it
my
really looked
goodness.
like.
The same day, yeah.
We go-
But the skies look like they're clearing up.
They were behind us. We're coming this
Behind us.
way.
Wow.
We're coming this direction towards us,
Okay.
towards the screen.
Wow.
Okay, this is the second day. And even though Larry says that the first day was really terrible for him,
No, the second was
I think the
worse.
second day was
Right,
actually
yeah.
worse
Why
because
is
we
that?
had to deal with, so you can see the trail up ahead, and it's a very big climb. In fact, it climbs for about 2/3 of a mile at 12%,
Wow.
and that's pretty tough.
Very steep.
Yeah.
That's very steep.
Especially on the second day when we're not really, used to walking all that
but
much.
I bet the harder
Yeah.
part was coming down on the knees,
Much
right?
Well, you
harder.
know what? You
Yeah.
guessed right, because going down, the grade was 18% for approximately 4 football fields. And if the going up didn't get to you, the going down did. See, my brother is the guy on the right, and you can see his knees are all dirty, and that wasn't because he knelt down to pray. He fell,
Ooh, ouch.
and he had knee pains for many days after that.
Oh, I bet.
Okay, this is a communal dinner on the second day. You can see that they use all these glasses all made out of clay and stuff, and it was a great meal. All those lentils
was
we
wonderful.
had, and
We never
We-
had a bad meal.
Yeah, the food in
Never.
Spain and Portugal, my
Unbelievable.
goodness, it was
Unbelievable.
just delicious. And you're burning so many calories too, so you can eat kind of what you want,
oh yeah,
which is nice.
yeah. you
We
can-
average, what, 34 to 100 a day, 3,300
34.
calories?
Really? Oh, you
Yeah.
had
Something
some
like
sort
that.
of a
Yeah,
monitor
we,
for
we all
that?
had monitors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wow.
have it actually posted on the blog each day. How
Yeah.
many
Wow.
how many steps we took, how many calories we burned,
Okay.
how many miles we walked, and the time it
Wow.
took to walk the miles. Yeah.
Wow. Where is this
This
picture
is
from?
the third day. We passed by a canal, and we met these guys. And the guy here on the right, he happens to be from the town next to where my mother was born. So we
Oh,
struck a
wow.
conversation. It was really nice. And the guy on the left is, I think his name is Janos from Hungary, Budapest.
Budapest.
So, Leon.
Now you
This
were
is a
saying-
Roman wall in Leon.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Now you saw, I'm sure, as much Roman bridges and walkways
Oh,
as
yeah.
I did, just everywhere throughout
Everywhere.
Spain and
Mhm.
Portugal. And
So different than being in California.
isn't it though?
Something
I mean,
100 years old is old, but
so much older than anything we
Thousands
have
of years.
here.
This is the cathedral in Leon. Very nice.
Beautiful.
Now, if
That
you've
looks
seen,
familiar.
yeah, if you've seen the movie, you'll see that when they get to Leon, they stay in this parador. So this happens to be it. This is the Parador de San Marcos.
Explain what a parador is.
Parador is a chain of government-owned hotels that typically are they converted historical buildings like this happens to be. This was a hospital
Oh.
decades back, and it's been around for centuries. And now it's one of these paradores. And typically they're very nice. You know,
5-star most of them.
5
for
stars.
the
4 or 5
historical
star, yeah.
setting.
I think maybe the next time I go, I did the whole auberge experience, the hostel experience the first time. I think maybe next time I'll stay in one of
That's what
those
you
at
do.
least 1 or 2 nights.
This doesn't need an explanation.
That also looks like a scene from the movie The Way. I think they had a night or actually a lunch maybe similar
This is
to
a
yours.
lunch. Foot,
Another-
foot time.
Another midday repair.
Yeah.
This is the next day we're taking off from Leon.
So after Leon, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a little time in the evening to do some blogging.
So we'll make sure we put the address for your blog up
Okay.
on the show here so that
Sure.
viewers can actually go and read your story about your experience on the
Both of
Camino.
them,
Do mine too.
yeah.
Excellent. Emilio also kept a blog as well.
More terrain that you have to go through.
Mm.
Wow.
Probably,
You could twist an ankle on that.
yeah, and this is
Yeah.
why it's good to wear hiking boots or hiking shoes.
Now you also said that you had hiking sandals as well, and it was nice to switch off
Oh,
between
wonderful.
the two.
Yeah, wonderful.
Because the hiking boots, after a while, with all the blisters and the pain,
They don't
oh,
breathe.
the
They don't
pain.
breathe very well. In the
Did your
sandal.
feet hurt?
Yes.
My feet, I could
Yeah.
not believe, I'd never felt pain in my feet like that before.
Mm-hmm.
It
Felt
was
so good.
really-
Whenever you stopped, you took your shoes off, right? Yeah. I mean, oh, it felt so good.
We actually, Caldes de Reyes is a town in Spain after Tui, after the border, that is a hot springs for the kings.
Oh, really?
So it's hot springs, hot waters of the kings, and so we went and bathed in the mineral waters.
Oh, really?
And got a massage. Not quite the pilgrimage mentality, but we decided that it was our next to last day. We were going to splurge, and boy, sitting in 108 something, 104 degree water after hiking. It was after
that
our
had to feel good.
26-mile, 12-hour day, so it was it was very nice.
Felt good.
Very good, yeah.
Okay, this is Astorga, and this is the albergue in Astorga. Some of us stayed there, and some of us decided to stay in a hotel. But it was an interesting night.
Beautiful
It's
building.
pretty nice, yeah.
Yeah. This is the this central square in Astorga.
Now, pretty much every European town has a plaza like this.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I really loved about Europe that I wish we had more in America. We're very spread out. We don't have kind of a downtown square like this. And it was so nice to see families on Sunday after
Yeah.
church walking around the plaza.
In the evening.
People brought their kids and their dogs, and just everybody was outside a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was actually Saturday evening, and later on it actually got very crowded.
Very crowded.
A lot of kids playing in
Soccer.
Uh-huh. Oh, playing soccer, yeah.
Yeah.
Neat. Beautiful.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Now, where is this? And you were
This
mentioning
is
this
Astorga. And the next morning, as we were departing, we passed by this building, which happened to
Wow.
be designed by the Spanish architect Gaudí, the same one that was who's designed the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona.
That was just on 60 Minutes.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, they showed the.
I was in Barcelona and I saw Sagrada Familia, and apparently it was started in 1883 being built, and they say it's going to take 30 more years even still.
Yeah.
So, but this is a beautiful piece of Gaudí's work because it's very, it's
Different.
artsy in his kind of eccentric geometrical shapes kind of way, but it's also very kind of classy looking, It's
Especially
not,
when you think how old that is, huh?
yeah,
It's taken
beautiful.
long because the only money they get is through donations.
Really?
church, yeah.
Wow, wow.
Well, this was one of our stops. This was finally the sun comes out for a while, and so this is our group. Plus, we met two people from Italy, mother and daughter combination that were doing the hike, and so it's just one of our moments of rest. The shoes are off; you can see only socks, and having a little coffee.
How often did you stop for coffee? Coffee's
lot.
different in Europe. Can you explain a little bit about what it's like there to
Well, they
stop
get
for
you
coffee?
an instant start. It's strong. It's well, I was drinking an espresso. We call them solo, right?
Solo, yeah.
And so we stopped a lot. I mean, probably every hour and a half, 2 hours, you stop, have coffee. And as the day went on, that went from coffee to beer to wine.
I was going to say that looks more like beer.
I was going to say, you look like you're drinking
Well, I had a
some
beer
there.
in front of me, but that was yeah.
Different type of coffee here, yeah.
Yeah.
There was one morning, I remember that, when we left La Fava, by 10 a.m. we had already stopped 4 times for coffee.
Wow. We stopped
But
quite a
that
bit
was,
as well.
That was a tough
That was
day.
a tough day.
That's what's amazing is that there's actually coffee shops all along
Everywhere.
and bars all along the Camino, because you're not, I think people don't understand necessarily what the Camino's like. I mean, there's places that are very natural, there's places that are feeling like you're out in the middle of nowhere, and then you're also in towns and walking through the streets, and sometimes it's, there's places that are not very safe actually, even through just in terms of the traffic. But so we're getting a little short on time, so we're going to move forward through these, but we want to really hear a few more stories before we
Okay,
head
well,
out.
this is the spot known as the Cruz de Ferro. It is the highest point of the Camino Frances. And the people that do the Camino Frances typically take a stone with them, and when they get to this point, they deposit it here. More of the surfaces of the
Very typical.
Camino.
Beautiful.
It looks like a goat trail.
Now this looks like a Roman trail along here as well,
Exactly.
right?
The
Yeah.
aqueduct.
With the aqueduct.
It's amazing when you're walking along this, just you can only imagine how long it must have taken them to build that, but they were building as they were going all across Spain. Ooh, that's really pretty. It looks very swampy almost.
Yeah.
They'd had so much rain. You can see
Yeah.
how high the water levels are. Beautiful there.
Yeah.
That's a gorgeous picture. I can
Many
see the
aspects of the
colors in the
Camino.
background.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Mm-hmm.
We hit it just in time for a lot of the wildflowers.
I got the mustard.
Yeah, the mustard.
Oh, the mustard was so beautiful.
This is another
Oh, that day.
another high point
The invitation.
in the
wind
Camino.
and this fog.
Another one of the highest peaks. I think is about 1,400 meters. And there's this statue of a pilgrim, and we tried to imitate the pilgrim. Snapshot.
You were a little higher than I was. We were at about 1,300 feet on the 26-mile day. We went from sea level to 1,300 feet, back down to sea level, and that was our 12-hour
That was
day.
your 12-hour day.
12-hour
That's a
day,
long
yeah,
day.
26 miles.
Here we stopped at a restaurant, and we had this great wine, and we happened to meet the girl who makes the wine. So we figured it'd be nice to have the two winemakers, Emilio and her, pose for a picture.
This was a winery, actually, and when they invited us in. They gave us all the tasting free, since we were pilgrims.
Oh,
a lot
nice.
of places along the way do
Uh-huh.
Yeah. There's actually a spot on the Camino Frances where there's a fountain that dispenses wine.
that. You can have
We
one.
didn't
Really?
pass by
Yeah.
it because it was
Before
before.
Wow.
Burgos, yeah.
I'll
So
have
you
to go find
definitely-
that one, yeah. You have to
Red
tell me
wine,
where
by the
that
way,
secret
yeah.
spot is.
Take your Boda bag.
This is a
Beautiful.
Templars castle.
Templar's Castle, yeah.
Along the way. This is the famous pulpo.
Pulpo.
At this point, we were in Sarria, which is about 100 kilometers away from Santiago. And this was Ed's best meal of his
My
well,
best
this
meal ever in a
specific
restaurant,
specific
ever.
dish here.
Oh my goodness.
Ever.
Yeah. And this is
There's the pulpo.
an octopus that has been cooked to perfection.
Mm.
We also ate here, really, really good. And this is the famous tortilla española. You have to try it if you never tried it. Simple,
They're
so simple and
delicious.
so good.
Oh,
It's my favorite
unbelievable.
food.
Me too.
This is going up to Puerto Marin. Before you get into town, you have to climb this these stairs.
Very last thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
They just want to torture you.
this is a
Oh, there we
typical
go.
municipal albergue. This is costs you €5 to sleep here.
Which is
And,
about
you know, you can-
$6.50.
You can take a
US.
shower and stuff, but this is you know,
Very clean.
Yep.
yeah,
Very close quarters.
Very close.
I hate bunk
just
beds.
posing in front of another
Monument.
St.
cross
James Cross
monument.
again there.
This we're here. We're basically the day before we got to Santiago, and we're just stopping for some a little snack. 25 kilometers to go, and Larry wanted to make sure that this was recorded.
Mountain.
The morning of the day we get to Santiago, as we leave the hotel, we met some Californians
Oh, wow.
along the way. Santiago.
Oh, great picture.
We finally get to the cathedral. We get our diploma.
So this is the
Yeah,
Compostela.
we
Compostela.
graduated, yeah. We got
You
this,
graduated.
yeah. And here's a face of contentment.
Contentment.
I was really
Yeah.
excited.
And
Falling
This
asleep.
is you inside the church at the Pilgrim's Mass.
yeah. And here's Ed and Emilio and my brother and Larry and myself.
You got matching hats.
Yeah, it was the same hat. We
Oh, it was.
We borrowed it.
and
that's a
this is
beautiful shot.
as while Emilio and Larry are listening to the mass inside. And I don't know if we
You
have
guys
time
are
for a little
drinking
story.
beer while you're.
Well, you
you're-
see, we walked with these ladies from Denmark,
Okay.
and one of them told us a little story that her father told her once, and she said her father told her that it's better to be drinking a beer and thinking about church than to be in church thinking about a beer.
That's a great story.
And this is the train back to Madrid.
Back to Madrid. Oh, that's great. So we're going to just wrap up with a couple of questions for you, and we have to be brief. But if you were going to share one thing that you think somebody who's thinking about doing the Camino one bit of advice, what would each of you say for advice for somebody who thinks, here's your stories, is really interested in going, is thinking about going with a friend or by themselves? What's one little bit of advice that you would give them about going on the Camino?
Prepare, really prepare. We spent over a year preparing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's hard to understand. Even the movie didn't talk about what it does to your feet and your legs, your knees.
Yeah.
Another thing would be, if you're a light sleeper, stay in a single room.
Get a hotel.
Yeah.
And they're inexpensive hotels, actually, too.
very
$20, $25 a night.
We had no problem with that. Yeah, even less than that.
You should take more than one pair of boots. You should have something you can trade off on.
The hiking sandals or another pair of shoes, sneakers
The
perhaps.
equipment is so
Yeah,
important.
and I think little frequent breaks where you can take your shoes off and let your feet breathe a little bit would be helpful.
Another thing would be walk 2 days, take a day off. Walk 2 days, take a day off.
So if you guys did it again, you would probably take some
Something
more
like
break
that for
days.
sure,
Because it
yeah.
does feel a little rushed sometimes if you
Yeah.
only have so many
The
days.
thing is, if I was to do it again, I would want to see more of the interior.
Yeah.
Little towns alongside, spend a little more time here and there.
Yeah,
That's
me
what I would
too.
do.
I agree.
And the other important thing that I would tell people is eat, because it's very easy to run out of energy.
Yeah.
If you don't eat enough, then you're not going to be able to walk, and it's going to be very hard to get to the destination for the day.
Eat and sleep.
So on that note, the advice is eat well when you're in Spain and Portugal and France on the Camino de Santiago. Make sure you wear great shoes, have an extra pair of shoes, have really good equipment that's going to support your back when you're walking, and be prepared both mentally, physically, and spiritually. And if you'd like to see more about the experiences of the four amigos here from Gilroy, California, when they were on the Camino de Santiago, or myself, we'll post the links so that you can go and hear more about our stories from the Camino de Santiago. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Depth of Field, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching our Depth of Field this month. We look forward to our next edition of Depth of Field about summer activities in Gilroy, Hollister, and San Juan Bautista. And until then, I'll say what we say on the Camino to everyone that you pass. Bon Camino.